Peace, peace. Now is the vibrate. Y'all know what it is. Before even going any further, as I share, this is more so about clarifying, mythology, clarifying, certain truths within this realm. This is not to say, hey, you gotta be with the fairy energy, or hey, you gotta go against the fairy energy, or hey, you gotta work with this god or goddess, or hey, you shouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? This is for truthing purposes. You know what I'm saying? Understanding certain connections. Of course, before getting in this, you're gonna see the connection of how Hindu mythology, in essence, travels to the Sumerian area. And this is not to say which one came first or whatever, but you do see how this information, whether you want to say like the area of Sumeria had it first, then the Hindu, or the Hindu had it after Sumeria, but, tracking the mythologies and how it moves, and in particular, how it moves to Ireland and connecting with, the Druid traditions and the Druid energy. You know what I'm saying? So in essence, connecting the Hindu mythology, traveling to the Druid area, and, starting from here, life is but a dream. And, when you think about the word fairy tale or old wife's tale, a fairy tale is like, oh man, that's just a fairy tale, as in that's fake, or that's some type of fantasy, or as if it doesn't exist, and even the notion of an old wives' tale. An old wives' tale is basically like, oh, that's some kind of little old lie. And notice that it's connected to the feminine energy, as if to say, the old feminine energy, oh, that's a tale. That's because even when, growing up in the South, instead of the word lying, it would be like, oh, you telling a tale, in essence. You know what I'm saying? That would be one of the little ways. That's super old school. Oh, you giving an old tale. That's a tale. You know what I'm saying? You lying. So fairy tales and old wives' tales associated with something being like a lie. Now, of course, with the deeper understanding of esoteric knowledge, we understand, like, how our imagination, or the I imagination, the subconscious / underworld, how it creates. So turning a group of people, into a fairy tale, basically like turning a group of people into nothing but an old wives' tale, a fairy tale. All those group of people didn't really exist. And if you continue that, it's genocide of certain people to the point of being wiped out from the memory. And I spell memory, from the Hebrew letter mem, which memory is connected to water, because water holds memory, and then Ori is kind of like a Santeria term. Your Ori is kind of like the head, deity that you deal with. But memory, waterhead, but genocide of certain people to the point of being wiped from the memory of everyone. And if something is wiped from the memory of everyone, then, it's almost like, in essence, genocide, in so many ways. This is why some cultures are big on the memory of ancestors or memory of traditions, and it's a balance. We are, the ego ain't all bad. Being in the physical body ain't all bad, but it's definitely making sure that as we remember, certain deities, is to not get to the extreme of the extreme ego in a toxic manner with dealing with these deities. Because in some cases, some deities, have an ego about themselves, as well. Not all, but some kind of have this, oh, you gonna keep me in your memory. So, although it's a great thing to remember certain things, is also certain deities or egregors that kind of move through this energy on the extreme ego. Some may consider the demiurge, but not getting deep into that. But the I, imagination, subconscious, underworld. And again, remember that your imagination is real. Every invention, everything physically existed in the mind's eye of someone first. Whether it's the sheet of paper, whether it's the pencil that wrote this, a book, a table, a chair, a cell phone, all of it existed in the mind of somebody. So right there, again, always remembering how real the imagination is. And we have a subjective experience and an objective experience. Subjective, more so like the individual or personal experience, and objective is more so like the collective experience. You have a collective truth that all of us kind of deal with just being in this realm. And then you have more of a subjective truth, which kind of goes to you and your path personally. You know what I'm saying? Because again, somebody may be imagining a ghost and that becomes real for them. But you right there with them. And if you not imagining that, then you don't, you don't sense that quote unquote ghost. You know what I'm saying? But getting into the connections, because it also kind of gets back into the connection with Indra, Zeus, lightning beings. The video I did about the etymology of the word divine. That's a whole other video to watch. But let's go to now this book, I done reference a lot. The Dragon Legacy, The Secret History of the Ancient Bloodline. And we're just kind of highlighting some of this because, again, I give this PDF file freely, and it should, if I'm not mistaken, is in the Discord, on my Discord app. So you could get it from there as well. But seeing how Tiamat connected to the primordial mother energy, in essence, serpent energy, and Tiamat, that name coming from, Sumerian, in the area of what is called Iran and Iraq, or the Persian area, that's all connected. But Tiamat, the first Tamaris, the maiden who gives the waters of life, was also the Tiamat or Tiamata, the first tree mother. Now, again, when we talk about water and whirlpools and stars, a whirlpool Also, whirlpools, stars. It kind of has like a tree-like shape to it. Like a little tornado funnel, you know what I'm saying? Kind of sprouts out like how a tree sprouts out with its branches. So, and also, like, speaking of a funnel or a whirlpool, when you think about Earth, and just for this conversation, not saying there's a globe or none of that, but like when you think about the Earth, and you think about a tourist field being around the Earth, you know what I'm saying? At one pole of the Earth, say the North Pole, it would be like a tourist field, like a little whirlpool of energy at the North Pole. And I get into this in, again, that same video with breaking down the divine etymology, because it also gets into the etymology of like basically the poles and how that's also connected to the etymology of umbilical cord, an umbilical cord also connected to like the tree energy. Because also if you look at an umbilical cord, the veins from the umbilical cord to the mother looks like a roots to a tree. And I trust that I'm going as slow as possible, and slow in a manner that's not saying that we slow. But so the tree mother, the first tree mother of the lords and ladies of the forest, the Druids and Druidesses, the people of the trees of life. And the Druids are strongly connected to the oak trees as well as apple trees. Now, another book, which I don't have it up right now, but that gets into this, is The Celestial Ship of the North. Now, again, as we continue, two of the younger gods of the Aryans, and when you break down Aryans, that's also Orion, and that also connects to Osiris, The Adityas, Tara and Baga, stand out prominently, as we have seen what this is. Ulrich Beck and several other scholars have traced the origin of the Scythian Irish. Scythian is basically like the peoples that are of the area, again, that's considered like Eastern Iran. So ancient Eastern Iran is connected to the Scythians. And as also like when you get into a lot of this, and the person who wrote this book, also draws connections to, again, the movie Lord of the Rings. But you'll see like how this connects with certain movies. More than just Lord of the Rings, but that's one of the main ones that comes up. But again, they have traced the origin of Scythian Irish to and this also kind of in essence, which some scholars won't just draw it to the Twa people, like the little small sharp people of Africa, but the Danu, and I know I'm kind of pronouncing it a little wrong, but to the same region as the Aryans, again, and have gone as far as saying that they were one and the same. Let's scroll over. Give me 1 second. They were one and the same. A matter of fact, I kind of let me read that over. Let's see. They have traced the origin of the Scythian Irish Tuatha De Danu to the same region as the Aryans, and have gone as far as saying that they were one and the same. So the Aryans and the Scythian Irish Tuatha the Danu, the Tuatha De Danu people were one and the same. Again, let me make sure that the Scythian Irish Tuatha De Danu were one and the same with the Aryans. And again, this is, you start to see also, this is where, you know, Hitler and the Germans kind of got that little Aryan connection as well. Because even, again, the swastika was something used in, you know, when you look at Hindu mythology and some of the temples in, you know, India and Angkor Wat, they have that swastika, you know, the symbol that the Nazis were using. Interestingly, we find that the goddess Tara, wife of Ruja, and Ruja is another form of Indra, another form of Shiva, but the goddess Tara, wife of Ruja, Indra's charioteer, appears in Ayr as Tara, the hill or wrath of ghosts in County Meath. Tara was the sacred center of the United Irish Kingdom and was the seat of the Danu kings of Tara during the Iron Age. And when you get into the mythology of the Druids, you'll hear about a battle, you know, and it took place in the area around the hill of Tara. And the name Tara somewhat also connects to tarot cards as well. Some scholars attribute the name of Tara in Ayr to some complicated sounding god name, which I found implausible in light of the fact that a goddess Tara already existed in the Scythian Aryan pantheon, whether it be Asura or Aditya, Danu or Milesian. All of the ancient goddess queens were the source of sovereignty associated with the sacred mounds. You know, and again, the mounds, they talk about this in the rebirth of Pan, about mounds, pyramids, but basically are like places like Stonehenge, you know, and they're set up in a certain way to read the stars or be aligned with certain star alignments, but depending on like what energy, you know what I'm saying, the people or the beings were connecting with, like say for instance, some beings really were into, let's say, Orion, the stars of Orion. They had their mounds or their sacred, you know, buildings in alignment to see when Orion was in a certain place. And then other beings might have had their, you know, things aligned, let's just say, to know what a stars in Palladian, the Palladian constellation was, or the Palladian star cluster, you know. But that's all I wanted to get into from this little part. Now, in this book, they also just looking at my notes, the Scythians, the ancient Eastern Iran, specialized in mounted warfare, which was warfare riding horses. So like whenever they show like people with the horse and the chariot, you know what I'm saying, in the war. And I also thought of the chariot tarot card, you know, connected with this energy. but Scythians. So it's ancient Eastern Iranic Scythian people with this mounted warfare, riding horses, descendants of Aryans of the Indus Valley or Indus Kush Valley, because there are certain knowledge that was discovered, or should I say, that was uncovered, that was always there, but, connecting Ethiopia or Kush to stretching all the way to India, and it was called the Indus Kush Valley. But descendants of the Aryans of Indus Valley, and hence why the Bhagavad Gita is depicted with horses and chariots. When you talk about Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield, they were battling, but they were like with the whole horse and chariot. And this was in the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu text. And Vishvakarma was the craftsman, also known as Tavastar, and he was the craftsman who created chariots and weapons. And this will go into another part. But before even going there, the Gaelic is kind of like the Druid, Druid language. Gaelic word for vampire is Sumer, which is pronounced Shamari or Sumari or Sumer, like summer, and is translated as vortex, meaning a whirlpool or spiral, a labyrinth, a sucker, a reptile, serpent or dragon. And again, I did a video about lesson loops, Rahu and K2, and again, all reptilian beings aren't maleficent, some are benevolent, you got some Naga energy, that's benevolent, but then you also have maleficent serpent beings as well. But again, the spiral or vortex, it kind of sucks things through, and you start to see again, like how, like say for instance, you look at a torus field, and the top of the torus field is sucking things in. So you got the top whirlpool sucking things in, and the bottom part of the whirlpool pushing things out. Would it be accurate to say that the top whirlpool is completely bad and the bottom of the whirlpool is completely good? It's like, no, there's a positive and negative to the part that sucks everything in, and there's a positive and negative to the part that pushes everything out. But ultimately, just like with anything, what I'm saying? And that kind of goes into the vibe of like, if somebody, like when we say vamping energy, what I'm saying? An energy vamp has a purpose. That doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy to always be around somebody that would be draining towards you. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that their existence is all bad. Because if for a vampire, the fact that a vampire exists or something that sucks in energy, then that gives the ability for something that gives energy to exist, from a deeper perspective. Now let's see. Now also just kind of going back into the part about the mounds, and this was also in the movie Artemis Fowl, which had like the fairies, and the fairies live deep in the earth close to the magma, you know, coming from the volcanoes, you know, and the volcano that deals with the Vulcan energy are Hephaestus. And notice that, because Vulcan, I think that's the name in Roman mythology, and this one is Greek mythology, or vice versa. But this is same, you know, same being, just different names, same God, you know. But again, look in the name of Hephaestus is Fae, fairy energy, you know. So the etymology, you know, has the story within it too. The Fae people, Fae, fairy, Fae. You know, see that connection again. The mounds and the hill of Tara. You know, and the fairy forts were basically like little mounds. You had earth mounds, stone circles, ring forts. And again, the book Rebirth of Pan kind of tapped into, you know, the mounds and the constellations. And let's see. Now, not too long ago, I posted this picture about elves and sprites and how they gave the name to basically certain phenomena dealing with lightning. You know, where you got you know, the thunderstorm, and it's kind of like the atmosphere and like going way up into the atmosphere, closer to the ground, and, you know, different forms of lightning, you know. But you also have a part of that that's named sprites and elves, which are, again, you know, kind of connected to the fairy energy as well. Now, this is a website. It's called VedaNet, VE, you know. And it speaks on Vedic origins of the Europeans, the children of Danu. And let's see. Go through this. This article shows how, you know, starting from here. This article shows how the early Indo-European language speakers in Europe, like the Celts, Germans, Greeks, and Scythians, and all that connected, were possibly based upon Vedic people called the Danavas, or Sun Danavas, good Danavas, and connected to Vedic culture and its influences at a deep level back to the most ancient period. Many ancient European peoples, particularly the Celts and Germans, regarded themselves as children of Danu, with Danu meaning the mother goddess, who was also like Sarasvati in the Rig Veda, a river goddess. The Celts called themselves Tuath de Danann, while the Germans had a similar name. Ancient European rivers, names like the Danube, and various rivers called Don in Russia, Scotland, England, and France reflects this. The Danube, which flows to the Black Sea, is their most important river and could reflect the eastern origins. In fact, the term Danu or Danava, the plural of Danu, appears to form the substratum of Indo-European identity at the base of the Hellenic and Illyro-Venetic, Italo-Celtic, Germanic, and Balto-Slavic elements. The northern Greeks were also called Danuni. Right here. Therefore, the European Aryans could probably all be called Danavas. I'll go a little bit further. Oh, man, that's too far. So according to Roman sources, Tacitus, in his Annals and Histories, the Germans claim to be descendants of the Manus, the son of Tuisto. Tuisto relates to Vedic, you can almost say Vastar or Tastar, the Vedic father, creator, sky god, who is also named for the father of Manu. And they got the, it stands for the Rig Veda, and what verse is kind of like the Bible, but the Rig Veda. This makes the Rig Vedic people also descendants of Manu, the son of Vashtar. In the Rig Veda, Vashtar appears as the father of Indra, who fashioned his thunderbolt, Vajra, and this kind of goes to the part where I just talked about earlier about Vashtar, known as creating, a craftsman, creating chariots and weapons. And he's known for creating the weapon of Indra, his thunderbolt. But yet Indra is sometimes at odds with Vashtar because it's compelled. Sometimes at odds with Vashtar because he is compelled to surpass him. And in the video I did about Indra, I talked about, again, his connection with the fairy energy, but it's called Apsaras in, Vedic texts, not necessarily fairies. But, Indra whole thing was not letting certain yogis, surpass him in their spiritual practices. And this goes into the Jesta Nakshatra in astrology, but go watch that video. Elsewhere, Vashtar's son is Vishvarupa or Vritra. And Vritra, whom Indra kills, Vritra is basically like a serpent. But let me continue. Vashtar's son is Vishvarupa or Vritra, whom Indra kills, cutting off his 3 heads. And that kind of goes into the Hydra energy in Greek mythology. Indra slays the dragon, Vritra, who lays at the foot of the mountain, withholding the waters, and releases the 7 rivers to flow into the sea. And now what that sounds like, you always kind of pay attention to the symbology of numbers and how that connects and corresponds across the board. So, first thing when you hear 7, you think of either 7 chakras or 7 planets. But, when it has the serpent connected to it, you for sure, first thing would probably be the chakra connection, because the chakras, at the bottom, at the root chakra is where the Kundalini rests, So again, the Kundalini, a dragon who lays at the foot of the mountain, withholding the waters, and releases the 7 rivers to flow into the sea, And also another side note, this gets into the show Wheels of Time or Wheel of Time. I may have spoken on it a little bit. And the dragon who had reincarnated, he's a male, and basically it kind of tells the story of like how, it's more easy for the feminine aspect to, in essence, kind of tame their Kundalini energy. Because in essence, when you look at all this text, it talks about like the feminine aspect being the ancient serpent, again, Tiamat, and, all these different, goddesses connected to the serpent. But again, but what I also want to say, because within the show, they talk about how, the dragon can channel the different elements, but he also has the possibility of, in essence, like going through psychosis or like, going through a mental disturbance from being overwhelmed by the powers. And that's also a part of Kundalini raising. When you raise your Kundalini, it's possible to, go through a certain level of psychosis. Hence why, with all of this type of, spiritual practices and stuff like that, you got to do your research and be aware and be patient, take your time and not, try to rush. Speaking from experience, from my own experiences. But all right. In several instances, Vitra is called the Nava, the son of the goddess Danu, who is connected to the sea. And again, they got the Rig Veda text that is connected to. And the Brahmanas, Vishvarupa or Vitra is the son of Danu and Danayu, the names of his mother and father. Clearly, Vitra is Vishvarupa, the son of the god Vashtar and the goddess Danu. The Nava also means a serpent or a dragon, which is not only a symbol of wisdom, but of power. In both Vedic and ancient European lore, have their good and bad dragons or serpents. Again, some good, lack of a better word, good or bad, maleficent, benevolent. I say maleficent. I'm thinking of one of them shows, Malevolent or Benevolent. You know what I'm saying? And notice again the term to it's not saying that masculine energy is bad, but you talk about malevolent. The first part of that word is male, and that kind of goes into like, whoever's telling the story, but so let's see. Serpent, dragon. All right. We're going to go to this part. I'm going to switch to another left part. And we're not going to go too far after this. Let's see. In this curious story, wait, let me make sure I ain't skipped that part. All right, yeah. We on point. In this curious story of both Indra and Vitra appear ultimately as brothers because both are sons of Vashtar. We must also note that Vashtar fashions the thunderbolt for Indra to slay Vitra. Indra and Vitra represents the forces of expansion and contraction, or the dualities inherent in each one of us. Again, mythology is anatomy by law. And some people take that out of context when I say by law, like as if I'm saying like, I don't know, like they associate it with like by law, you know what I'm saying? And I always said this early in my growth, like, the law of correspondence and the other 7 laws of the universe are hermetic principles. Again, that's not to say that that's the same in every different, universe, because a universe is just one verse, but out of many, out of many multiverses, because anything created, like I say, anything that has a born date has an expiration date. But if we're infinite, then that means that, our existence goes beyond a creation of a universe. And that's not to be on our, like, oh yeah, I've been existing before the universe, so I should, you know what I'm saying? It's not to come off on that entitled vibe either, you know what I'm saying? But which, you know, some beings may feel that entitlement of like, oh man, I exist before the universe, you know what I'm saying? And we all may have experienced it on our growth too. Hence why unconditional love for ourselves and others, you know, not gullible unconditional love, but just definitely understanding that, you know, some of us go through these experiences and may have a, you know, a tough little, you know, tough moments with understanding and transmuting these energies, you know. Indra and Vitra represent the forces of expansion and contradiction, or the dualities inherent in each one of us. They are both inherent in Vashtar and represent the two sides of the creator or of creation as knowledge and ignorance. As Vitra is also the son of Vashtar and Danu, Indra must ultimately be a son of Danu as well. Both the Vedic Aryans and the Proto-European Aryans are sons of Vashtar, who is sometimes not the supreme god, but a demiurge that they must go beyond. You know, and again, you got certain gods, but certain gods not necessarily the source energy, you know what I'm saying? Like, is certain gods of this realm, again, you know, this realm is not the end all be all, but at the same time, you know, while we're here, we're going to appreciate it and learn what we're here to learn while we're here. And I'll just go to this part and we'll switch off. But the Danavas and the Puranas are the sons of Rishi Kashyapa, who there assumes the role of Vashtar as the main father creator. Kashyapa is a great Rishi connected to the Himalayas. He is the 8th or central Aditya, sun god, that does not leave Mount Meru. And Mount Meru is kind of, again, that goes back to the umbilical card, the North Pole, you know, our pole stars, because that's what Celestial Ship of the North, that book gets into. The Fable World Mountain Kashyapa is associated with is Kashmir and other Himalayan regions, which connects the Danavas to the northwest. The Caspian Sea may be named after him as well. The Proto-Europeans, therefore, are the sons of Vashtar and Kashyapa and Danu through their son Manu. They are both Manavas and Danavas, as also Arius. But all right, so we got that connection. Then also, matter of fact, much love. And matter of fact, all right, before I even go into this, also getting into my notes. Let's see what it yet. Let's see. To also tie some of this in. Because this also, again, the mythology is anatomy by law. And just like inside of our body, this energy is going on. The earth is a body and has some of these same connections. And right here, again, I bring up life is but a dream. And just like I was making the connection with fairy tales and wives' tales earlier in this video, Vishnu, a god in Vedic or Hindu mythology, you know, he sits atop Ananta Shisha, which is a serpent sitting at the bottom of all of the lokas, or all of the worlds. And Vishnu is dreaming the universe. So basically, like he, you know, said to be dreaming the universe into existence. But just a few things with oak trees. Oak trees get struck by lightning more than other trees. And again, sprites, elves, names for certain characteristics of thunderstorms are are activities connected to thunderstorms. Oak trees are connected to gods Jupiter and Zeus, which are connected to lightning. And I also drew the connection, Harry Potter had the little lightning strike, across his forehead. And then also when you talk about Hollywood, and holly trees and using Hollywood as a magic wand, holly trees have a type of energy that grounds electrical energy and prevents like lightning or electrical energy from affecting things around it. But again, the lightning energy, that's Indra. Indra was connected to the lightning, and Indra also had the Apsaras, which were fairies. And again, when you talk about fairies and druids and oak trees, that's all connected. So the oak tree connected to lightning, connected to Indra, connected to the Apsaras, and fairies and oak trees, is known for having a fairy connection as well. And lightning is also connected to the neurons in the brain, because again, the nervous system, all the blood, the veins and stuff kind of move like a tree as well, but also the neurons in our brain and the nervous system in our body, is just like tree branches. And that goes into the videos I did about magnesium and, certain things that prevent the overexcitement from electricity, affecting the nervous system. The deep roots of the oak tree are deep roots and grounding, and high water content is kind of what, attracts that, oak trees being struck by lightning. Again, let's see. I'm not going to get too deep. That's a whole nother video as far as like, water content, H2O, and it gets into atoms and ion charges, and also acid and alkali, because with acid and alkali, one of these is a negative charge ion and one is a positive charge. And let me see, since I'm right here, let's see if I could grab this right quick. Do my best to wait, is it here? Yeah, acid and alkali. All right. A little bit of it is here. All right. So yeah, it's the hydrogen positive ion, and OH is the negative, ion. So again, we're not getting into the science. All that just comes from this book, Crystal Power, Crystal Healing. Again, a lot of books for the book readers if you want, to ground this information. So let's see. Again, Druids connected to oak trees, and Danu and the Tuatha De Danann people. That's some of my notes. Oak tree, Vedic story. Oh, matter of fact, dang, So oak trees ruled by Jupiter, wisdom because of the roots being anchored so strongly, and no coincidence that oaks are great shadow work teachers because of how deep their roots run. And the roots could grow as far as 100 yards away. And matter of fact, I reference Andy Dufresne from the movie Shawshank Redemption, because Andy Dufresne, his symbolic crawl through the sewer line, crawling all those yards through that sewer line, was also a representation of like crawling through, the underworld, crawling through a lot of, quote unquote shit to get to his freedom, but he had to crawl through that shit in order to, get out of imprisonment, which I ain't watched it in a minute, but just thinking about just the summary of that movie, and the symbology of like shadow work, or like, having to travel through the underworld to get to that freedom. And also the oak tree, it attracts both predator and prey, creating a microcosmic representation of Earth in and on one tree. So this is also why oak trees may have like this, esoteric value, more so when it comes to Druids, but in general. And oak trees from the family of chestnut, beech trees. Fossil research indicate that the I ain't even gonna try to say it, but this plant family has been around for more than 80 million years. And again, Druid, Sanskrit. Again, Sanskrit connected to Vedic. Dru, tree of wood. Greek, dris, oak. Old Celtic compound, Druid, strong, seer. Old Celtic, Deros, true. Pi stands for Proto-Indo-European, as far as like linguistic connections. Deru equals tree or oak. Wed, Druid, Druid, tree, oak tree, to know. And wed also to see, so seeing like that connection as well. And let's see, we're gonna go to this little part and we're gonna leave it at that. Now again, as I was saying, shout out to Seven Bomar, because he presented this book. This book is called The Day of the Fish. But I just, it got other little downloads in it as well. But this just goes straight into, again, the Tuat De Danann. And, again, some of the same things I done already spoke on. But this is, this book, in essence, The Day of the Fish, is the connection to the mistress of speech, basically the basis of this book. And the mistress of speech, this get into, for something on the visual vibes, again, like bringing up the movie Dune, Dune, and basically the Bene Gesserit, but the women, you know what I'm saying, who have their speech, and their speech could kind of like, it could affect people, almost like control people in essence, and the Quissac cataract was basically, again, it's only moved through the women, but the son of one of the Bene Gesserits had the power to have this speech as well, but, there's also that connection. And I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to actually just have it on screen so you could just kind of see. But this book is also connecting a lot of this to, the Nomo tribe. We talk about Mali in Africa, Dogon tribe in Mali. But again, some of this was also in the other book, so you see how that correlates. Again, in many mythologies, Danu was magical, often monstrous, and associated in some way with water. She also believed that She also believed that the Indian Danu became the Irish Danu of the Tuatha De Danann, and that the goddess Danu had given her name to several bodies of water, and again brought up the rivers. And according to Noble, the name of the goddess Danu blesses all rivers pouring into the Black Sea in the area where Amazons are known to have lived. And these associations with water remind us of the Numo and the 8 ancestors. But again, that's another part of this book. And again, they get into the whole story of Vitra in this book as well. So you see, like all these different connections. And I'll read this part and then, But let's see. According to the Rig Vedas, Danu was the mother of Vitra, the ark withholder of the heavenly waters. Indra, the Hindu god of thunder and war, used the rainbow to shoot arrows of lightning, killing Vitra, described as a primordial demon or serpent. In the Dogon religion, the thunderbolt was associated with the smith's hammer, and again, that goes into Thor, which was an aspect of the Numo spaceship, which was also identified with a rainbow. And again, rainbow serpent, Quetzalcoatl, It was likewise associated with an arrow, regeneration, the hunt, and the spaceship's descent to Earth. In the Hindu mythology, Indra also attacks Danu, the mother serpent, and releases the waters. The Rig Veda reports that the bellies of the cloud mountains split open. This is likely in reference to the world flood that was indirectly caused by the jackal. Now, when they speak of the jackal, this is also kind of connected to the Anubis energy, or the quote-unquote Hermanubis energy, and I done did a little separate video on that as well, so we're not going to go into that. Check out that video. When the jackal was fleeing the Nomos world, the Nomos shot 2 thunderbolts at him. Depictions of these thunderbolts were used to suppress thieving in the Dogon society. So they use, thunderbolts to say, hey, don't be coming around here stealing. In so many ways. In the later patriarchal Greek culture, Graves, most likely they're talking about Robert Graves, the author, reports how meteorites, and we talk about meteorites, moldavite, which me personally, again, from my own little inner gnosis, meteorites may most likely be like obsidian and come from volcanoes. And when a volcano shoots up, and the debris or the lava falls to the ground, it looks like a comet or an asteroid. It's not to discredit meteorites, but again, that's my energy, and especially looking at working with the crystals and seeing them, and it's like, dang, all right, they cut and shaped like glass, and and again, everything. Check out that video I did about obsidians, and meteorites. Got a video on that as well, so we're not gonna go too deep into that. But where am I? Yep. So reports how meteorites and Neolithic spearheads were identified as Zeus's thunderbolts and were paid divine honors because they were believed to have fallen from heaven. This is likely a patriarchal reversal of the earlier myth because the thunderbolts were also identified with the bronze pestle hidden in the headdress worn by the images of Ephesian Artemis. And just talked about the little movie called Artemis Fowl and connecting to the fairies and stuff like that. So you see how these little Disney movies and all these movies be, you know. But again, you kind of got to be into the mythology and the ancient stories first because, you know, some of these movies may try to twist these truths in some ways. But in this verse of the Rig Vedas, there is a reference to Indra overcoming the 7 Danus, you know, and it could also be, again, the 7 chakras. The mistress of speech was the 7th ancestor. And let's see, we go a little further. The 7th ancestor. In the same passage, the Rig Veda refers to Danu with her son as lying like a cow with her calf. So the Rig Veda refers to Danu with her son, basically like Danu and Vritra. You know, it's like a mother laying with her son. May not mean sexual, but they also have that archetype of the mom having sex with her son. You know, that's a part of the mythology of this realm in essence. But in the Dogon religion, the cow was a symbol of the pneumo and the significance of the Madonna images that were discussed in chapter 2 of this book. Fragments of the Dogon religion appear in these Indian myths. And again, no, they're not talking about what they call American Indians. No, American indigenous people, not necessarily no Indians. But anyway, religion appeared in these Indian myths, suggesting that the serpent goddess Danu was likely based on knowledge about the mistress of speech, the pneumo, humans' ancestors, and the pneumo. Graves believed that in Celtic mythology, the goddess Danu was eventually masculinized into Dan or Danus and regarded as the eponymous ancestor of the Tuatha De Danann. The names Dan or Danus may have some ancient association with the primordial pine of resurrection, Dana. The blue and white Danu bird also symbolized the mistress of speech and was born from her blood as it was drying up after the sacrifice. But we're not going to go any further. You know, most likely well, in essence, I done did the part that I needed to do as far as showing the connections from Hindu and Vedic mythology and how it connects across the board from, you know, the Iran/Iraq, or more so Iran, Persian, Sumerian, Mesopotamia area, and how that moves all the way into, you know, the connection with the Druids, you know, and then this also connected in, you know, the Dogon tribe mythology, which is from, you know, Mali in Africa, you know. And again, drawing the connections with Indra, you know, the fairies, lightning, oak trees, you know, and just making it all connect. So, you know, if there's another form of connecting some of this, I will get into it. But just for right now, we're going to leave it at that. Now is the vibrate. not too far in the future, not too far in the past, right now. Understanding ourselves through mythology, because mythology is anatomy by law of correspondence. Peace.